time for This Week in Clarksville. And now, here's your host, Stephanie Miller.
Welcome to This Week in Clarksville on this beautiful Thursday, February 23rd. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller. Coming up on today's show, we sit down with a local business owner who shares her story of overcoming certain challenges in her young life and the path that she chose, which now has her being recognized as one of the top 20 to watch in 2023 by the New York City Journal. Also today, we talk with a cardiovascular doctor from Tenova Medical Group. February has been American Heart Month, so we hear today on how we can stay heart healthy and how we can avoid certain heart diseases. But first, let's check in with reporter Sherry Reeves to see what's making the wrap in this week's edition of Main Street Clarksville.
This is the wrap for the February 23rd edition of Main Street Clarksville. U.S. Senator Bill Hagerty was in Montgomery County on Tuesday, February 21st, speaking to the Kiwanis Club of Clarksville at the William O. Beach Civic Hall. He commended the community for its strength and its talent. Montgomery County 911 Emergency Communications announced it has begun accepting text services to 911 in Clarksville and in Montgomery County. On Sunday, February 19th, Haven Madison, age 16, a student at Clarksville High School, received 3 yes votes from the American Idol judges on ABC's Singing Talent Show. The local cheerleader now moves on to Hollywood to compete. Hundreds of people showed up at Clarksville's Fort Defiance last Saturday for the annual commemoration of the surrender of Clarksville, which took place on February 19, 1862. We have a story and we have pictures in this week's paper of all the activities for that day. A Nothing But Cakes Bakery has opened at 2300 Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. The 2,100 square foot store employs 22 people. The modern spin on a classic treat offers at least 9 flavors every day and a monthly featured flavor. The cakes come in 4 delicious sizes. And that's the wrap. I'm Sherry Reeves, Main Street, Clarksville.
Sherry, thank you. When we come back, hear from the local business owner who created her own path and is now being recognized as one of the top 20 to watch in 2023 by the New York City Journal.
As a busy mom juggling family, errands, and everything life throws at me, I try my best to be environmentally conscious. So of course, I buy flushable wipes thinking I'm doing the right thing. But it turns out flushable wipes aren't actually flushable. I found out the hard way when flushable wipes caused a clog and flooded my house with sewage. It ended up costing me thousands of dollars in damage and a big headache with the insurance company. It's safe to say our family will never flush a flushable wipe again, and instead put them where they belong, in the trash.
Here at the Journey Louis team with Benchmark Realty, we pride ourselves on the service that we provide our clients.
We believe in delivering a level of service that is above and beyond what is expected.
We don't cut corners and we are always available. We are committed to learning and continuously sharpening our skills.
We're social media experts, we're tech savvy, and we embrace change.
It is our unending desire to be our client's realtor for life. We are the Journey Louis team, leading you home.
Welcome back. We have the pleasure of sitting down with one of the top 20 entrepreneurs to watch in 2023. This was put out at the beginning of February by the New York City Journal. This particular person calls Clarksville home. This is Rosemary Calcese, a phenomenal lawyer, works in real estate, owns Transformation Title here in Clarksville as well as Kelsey's and Associates. First off, thank you for sitting down with me.
No, thank you. It's an honor to sit with you.
It's what an honor that you were recognized as one of the top 20 entrepreneurs to watch around for 2023 by the New York City Journal. Did this come as a shock, or how did you find out about this recognition?
Yes, it was a total shock. The New York City Journal does their own vetting process, and they pick from a pool of thousands of people that are entrepreneurs and business owners, and they have different levels that you have to enter your information: size, growth, expansion, basis, fundamentals, and so lots of different categories. I did not foresee myself as being a winner of it, coming from such an amazing pool in the U.S.
Well, and don't let Rosemary fool you. She is an amazing woman, not only a wife, mother of two, veteran, lawyer, worked in real estate. Like, you have such a extended background. What has, I guess, given you that drive to get to where you are?
Yeah, I'm a very spiritual person, but I came from nothing. I grew up in a trailer park, and I knew at a very, very young age that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to change my trajectory, and I knew that was up to me to do it. And so I think probably when I was about 6 or 7, I told my dad I would be a lawyer, and now I am. I took an unconventional route to get here because I don't have a normal background. My dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. And so doing that, school can be challenging, having consistency. So I joined the Navy when I was 18, and I completed my undergraduate and master's degree while I was enlisted in the Navy. And then I got out of the Navy and started my civilian legal career.
For those out there who, may say, I don't have the background, I can't do it, what can you say to them? Because honestly, anything is possible.
You can do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. And in fact, we moved so much as a child. When I went into high school, the high school told me, you're so far behind, there is no way you're gonna graduate until you're probably 20. And that was so damaging for me, because I knew I was smart. I knew that God granted me a gift of intelligence, book smart. So it was very, very hard for me to hear that. And so I dropped out of high school in 9th grade and taught myself how to read and write to get into the Navy and to get into college. And so I was self-taught from 16.
Wow. So discipline has always been a part of you. How do you stay disciplined as you have continued through life?
Discipline is key. Discipline is more important than motivation and more important than any plan you could ever have. So my discipline and how I've always stayed on track is every day I have a schedule. I wake up and I work out. I wake up at 05, I work out, I get my kids ready, I clean my house, make lunches, and then I go to work. And I am a very systematic person, create a lot of to-do lists.
That's always the struggle for me, the to-do list.
Yes. Well, sometimes they're so daunting because you're like, oh my gosh, but biting it off in chunks. I also think that I've always worked out. I've always been some form of an athlete. And I think that athleticism teaches you a lot of discipline. And whether you're a coachable person or you're not, but if you show up, you work hard, you get results. And that's really, it's not much more complicated than that.
I do have to ask, as a woman, you've been in male-dominated areas, so from the Navy to pursuing law. Real estate is, tends to be male-dominated.
It is.
How have you set yourself apart to be so successful?
Grace. I think that I choose grace over feminism or over dominance. If you are a graceful woman and you carry yourself with that pride and spirituality and representing yourself, generally people are very open to that. And so I don't have a lot of issues. Real estate law, 98% is male, so I am of the minority for sure. But I've always been in great situations. My mentor from Baker Donaldson has always helped me.
Best piece of advice that you can give those listening?
Never give up, and you set your trajectory. Nobody sets that for you. It doesn't matter what set of cards that you've been given. You can change the future starting today.
Rosemary Kelsey, so many great words there. Thank you again. Recognized as the top 20 entrepreneurs to look for in 2023 by the New York City Journal. You can catch the article there. Again, thank you, Rosemary, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Stick with us. We have more coming up right after this.
Hey, I'm John, one of the family owners here at the City Forum. Some people think I'm great at the games and attractions here, but I'm not. I'm fantastic. Your mom might want to pick that up. Go low with 18 holes in mini golf. Channel your inner Ricky Bobby on the go-kart track. Play in Clarksville's only 7D motion theater. 10 lanes of family fun bowling. Don't forget about our big birthday party rooms. So come on out to the City Forum and try to beat some of my high scores.
Here at the Journey Louis team with Benchmark Realty, we pride ourselves on the service that we provide our clients.
We believe in delivering a level of service that is above and beyond what is expected.
We don't cut corners and we are always available. We are committed to learning and continuously sharpening our skills.
We're social media experts, we're tech savvy, and we embrace change.
It is our unending desire to be our client's realtor for life. We are the Journey Louis team, leading you home.
As a busy mom juggling family, errands, and everything life throws at me, I try my best to be environmentally conscious. So of course, I buy flushable wipes thinking I'm doing the right thing. But it turns out flushable wipes aren't actually flushable. I found out the hard way when flushable wipes caused a clog and flooded my house with sewage. It ended up costing me thousands of dollars in damage and a big headache with the insurance company. It's safe to say our family will never flush a flushable wipe again, and instead put them where they belong, in the trash.
February is American Heart Month, where the focus has been on heart health information throughout the month. So we wanted to go ahead and wrap up this month talking about ways to be heart healthy. To do that this morning, we have Dr. Adrian Denchenko with us from Tenova Medical Group with the specialty he has in cardiology. First off, doctor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So let's talk heart health and the best ways that we can make sure that we are living a heart healthy life.
Well, let's start out by kind of defining what we mean by heart health.
Okay.
When most people talk about the heart, they usually are thinking about this muscle in the middle of their chest. Mm-hmm. But really what we're talking about for the majority of people is coronary health. Okay. So we're talking about the actual blood vessels that supply blood flow to the heart itself. So it's mostly what we do in cardiology today, at least in this country, is we focus on coronary artery disease health. Mm-hmm. So the things we'll be talking about chiefly today will be speaking towards healthy blood vessels, or how to keep your arteries healthy and clean. So the major risk factors that we identify that lead to problems with the coronary arteries are numbered in about 7 or 8 different, other health-related conditions that lead to problems. And I like to look at them as what I consider the major risk factors for coronary disease, and then the minor risk factors. Mm-hmm. So the major risk factors we typically deal with, and things that typically lead to problems earlier in life, are number 1, diabetes, number 2, a smoking history, chiefly of tobacco, but certainly smoking anything other than tobacco is a problem, mm-hmm. and then a family history. Diabetes is such a significant risk factor for the development of vascular disease that I tell most of my patients that it's really not a matter of if they're going to get vascular disease or coronary disease, it's a matter of when.
Right.
And then you really need to couch that by saying that just because you have coronary disease doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to some sort of problem in your lifetime that needs to be addressed, but it certainly is there. It's just with diabetes, it's we're dealing with an epidemic in this country at this point, and it's really which organ system is going to be mostly affected first, second, or third. But it's really the number one reason why people end up needing our attention, whether that be with stenting and bypass and other interventions. So the key is not to become diabetic. And that's where the typical recommendations you hear both from cardiologists and from your doctor is to maintain a healthy nutritional habit and also to exercise regularly. Two very simple things, but really if they could be ingrained in a prescription that you get from your doctor every time you visit them, that's what we would recommend. And it's all really to avoid becoming diabetic. Smoking speaks for itself. It's has a variety of toxins in the smoke itself that damage the entire vascular space. So again, it damages the blood vessels that go to all of your organs. We tend to focus mostly on the lung effects because that's the most direct effects we see. But really, smoking is a very significant risk factor for any kind of vascular disease process, and is a major risk factor for both heart attacks and strokes for the same reason. It affects the vascular space, and it leads to this plaquing process that then leads to the heart attacks that we're concerned about.
Right.
And family history is important, but let's define that a little bit better or a little bit more fine-tuned as far as what we mean by that. What we're talking about chiefly is premature family heart disease, risk. So if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa had heart disease or diagnosed early in life, and we couch that by saying that it's typically today we think of anything less than 60 years of age, if they required some specific intervention, stenting, heart attack, bypass surgery, that's early under the age of 60. But it needs to be compared to the other risk factors and looked at with the other risk factors that they had. So if both of your parents, for instance, were diabetic, or both of them were smokers, or they were both diabetic and smokers, we really can't look at the family history in isolation in that particular instance, right?
Right.
Because they have these other major risk factors. And so we really don't know how much contribution the genetic profile has in that particular instance. So those are really the three major risk factors, that we focus on and that we're concerned about, especially with the development of coronary disease early in life. And the things we really, advocate and recommend, individuals avoid if at all possible. There's a lot of other risk factors. I kind of couch these as what I consider lesser risk factors, only because they're important, but they typically don't lead to significant vascular disease early in life. These are things that take many years to develop. It takes a long time for them to exhibit the negative effects on the vascular space. And so we do want to attend to them. We do want to treat them. But again, it takes many, many years, and in most cases, many years of inattention or poor treatment of those conditions that leads to problems. And those are things like hypertension or persistently elevated blood pressures, high cholesterol values, specifically high LDL values, which look at, what your gender is. We certainly can't change those things. So it's something we factor into the equation, but it's not something we can change, so we don't focus on it. And then, of course, being overweight or obese and being sedentary also contributes to, vascular disease.
Right.
But, hypertension and hyperlipidemia is where we focus a lot of the attention because, again, it's something we can measure. It's something we can treat. There's a multitude of medications out there to, facilitate appropriate treatment of those risk factors. And so that's what we focus on. And typically, again, probably not in my office necessarily, as far as an initial diagnosis or initial treatment. Usually that's handled by the internist. But certainly everybody who has diagnosed coronary disease is going to get treated for those in a much more aggressive fashion.
Got it. Before I let you go, I want to ask a couple questions. And from your standpoint, when you say a healthy diet, what do you say a healthy diet is?
Yeah, a healthy diet, there's a lot of misinformation out there today about these different diets and diet fads. And one can even look back at the original diet recommendations, the pyramids, the circles, and I don't know what the latest one is, to be honest with you.
It's always changing.
Those are not really 100% correct. Okay. There are a lot of the initial dietary studies were done, and they were, well, for lack of a better way of putting it, they were poorly done. And what was done in those studies that was a mistake was that they didn't really look closely at the sugar intake that people were consuming in their diet. They looked at saturated fats, they looked at proteins, they looked at carbohydrates, but for some reason the sugar aspect it wasn't factored in. So that when a cardiologist talks about a heart healthy diet, what he's talking about is a diet that is very similar to what the diabetic doctors recommend today. And that's a diet that is low in carbohydrates, very low in simple sugars. So, simple things like sodas that have sugar in it, pastries, desserts of any kind that have sugar in it. Those should be consumed rarely. I mean, these are things that are very, for lack of a better, very bad for you. I mean, we're going through a massive experiment as far as, people on this planet goes with the readily available access to sugar that we've never experienced before, leading to this diabetic epidemic. When you have such readily available access to refined sugars and to carbohydrates, mind you, that's why we're running into all the problems we are. So a heart healthy diet would be one that's high in vegetables. Protein is okay, as much protein as you like. Even saturated fat, which has been kind of vilified over the years as a major, contributor to atheroma disease or to vascular disease in general, really isn't that bad. Okay, we consume saturated fat, but it's not as if saturated fat is simply converted into plaque the minute we consume it. We need saturated fat. Saturated fat is an important energy source. Our heart actually uses saturated fat as its primary energy source. It doesn't use sugar or carbohydrates, and that's because it's readily available, and it doesn't create an acidic environment when saturated fat is utilized as an energy source. So saturated fat is not as bad as people make it out to be, but really what you want to focus on is a protein and vegetable-based diet. Even fruits are okay, but again, in moderation. If you eat the fruit, you want to consume it in its natural state.
Yeah.
Juicing, and again, this fad that came up several decades ago of juicing, and this was somehow supposed to be healthy for you. It really is not. It really is just a different form of a sugar. You shouldn't be consuming or eating or drinking a lot of juices if you are if you want to stay healthy, or if you're a diabetic especially, because it's just a different form of sugar, but it's still sugar. Okay. So if you're going to consume fruits, eat it in its natural state, and certainly don't overindulge in it, because in a lot of ways, it's sort of like having a dessert. You want to minimize that intake.
Couple final questions. One being artificial sweetener. A lot of people saying, okay, I'm not taking in a lot of sugar. I use something that, the artificial sweeteners. Is that okay? Or do you recommend just cutting that out too?
I don't recommend artificial sweeteners, and for several reasons. One is it sets up kind of a bad metabolic reaction, for lack of a better term. Without getting into all the specifics, it's sort of like you're trying to fool your body into thinking that it has recently consumed some sugar. And so when that artificial sweetener hits your taste buds in your mouth, there's a series of signals that get sent off to your gastrointestinal tract and to your metabolism to say, oh, there's simple sugar on its way. Let's get ready. We're going to process this. We're going to take care of it. And when that doesn't happen, there's a series of things that can get set up to suggest that your body is being starved. Okay. So it's ready for this onslaught of sugar. It doesn't happen. And all of a sudden, the body seems like it's being starved, meaning that's how it's going to respond. So what it does then is it starts setting up a chain of events. And this happens over many different meal times and many different weeks and months and so on and so forth. But if the body is perceived as being starved, what it'll do is it'll retain adipose tissue, meaning it'll store fat because it fears that there's some sort of problem coming around the bend. and it's not going to have enough energy, so it starts storing fat. And so it sets up this counterproductive pathway if you're using a lot of artificial sweeteners.
Got it. Thank you so much for all of this information. I really hope people are listening to what you're saying. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel like people need to hear?
Well, again, I think it kind of goes back to the very beginning of the discussion that we held with regard to the recommendations for diet and exercise. Many times, every time that I speak to patients about this, I try to make them understand the value of those two things. And I'm going to focus just briefly on exercise because we've talked a little bit about diet. Exercise is such an inherently important facet of our health, not just from a cardiovascular standpoint, but in general, that it's really, you can't oversell it. Okay. And I think a lot of times in our doctor's offices, it is undersold, and it's because historically people are looking for a simple, quick fix that doesn't require any exertion or any kind of effort on their part or any discipline to do the exercise. I mean, aside from the cardiovascular benefits of exercise, simply doing regular motion-related exercises, even if it's walking, even if it's Tai Chi, something like that, these are things that help kind of lubricate our joints. They release endorphins, they make us feel better, and all of those things simply lead to a better overall health. So it isn't just the aspect of the caloric, burning of calories or trying to lose weight. There's a lot of other benefits to the exercise, and it's very important that we engage in that on a regular basis, if not every day, at least every other day, because today, unfortunately, it's become very easy to become entirely sedentary. There's not one bit of physical activity most people have to do on a daily basis, especially today in this country. You can manage to spend your entire day not doing one bit of exertional physical activity. That's not healthy.
You're 100% right about that. Thank you so much for all of this. Dr. Dencheko, we appreciate your time. Again, cardiologist with Tenova Medical Group. We appreciate you. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Here at the Journey Louis team with Benchmark Realty, we pride ourselves on the service that we provide our clients.
We believe in delivering a level of service that is above and beyond what is expected.
We don't cut corners, and we are always available. We are committed to learning and continuously sharpening our skills.
We're social media experts, we're tech savvy, and we embrace change.
It is our unending desire to be our client's realtor for life. We are the Journey Louis team, leading you home.
At Miss Lucille's, we go for apple pie. A place that feels like a home away from home. A comfortable place to bring your family from out of town. It's a place where great conversations are had. It's a place where you can shop 200 small businesses in one location. It's a place for you to shop for gifts for any occasion or just to treat yourself. Come on down to Miss Lucille's. You'll be glad you did.
As a busy mom juggling family, errands, and everything life throws at me, I try my best to be environmentally conscious. So of course, I buy flushable wipes thinking I'm doing the right thing. But it turns out flushable wipes aren't actually flushable. I found out the hard way. When flushable wipes caused a clog and flooded my house with sewage, it ended up costing me thousands of dollars in damage and a big headache with the insurance company. It's safe to say our family will never flush a flushable wipe again, and instead put them where they belong, in the trash.
Thank you so much for joining us for This Week in Clarksville on this Thursday. Have a blessed rest of your day and a fun and safe weekend.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of This Week in Clarksville. We'll see you next time.